Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another transparent episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out just a little less than traditional. So yeah, guys, big announcement over here. I am officially a gymnastics dad. So essentially, the other week, signed up the girls, my two daughters, for gymnastics, and they're loving it. They're crushing it. They're doing all the things. They're so awesome. They're so legit. I could spend a whole episode obviously bragging about them, but it's just interesting for me being in that dynamic because we've been going for a couple of weeks now, and I've taken them the last two times they've gone, and it's just so weird because I used to be so cool. Like, you might not believe that by hearing me and looking at me. You might be like, Cap, nope, not buying it. No, Anthony, you've always. But I promise, I used to be the cool guy who would cruise through the streets in my nice ride, hollering at the ladies, doing my thing, always on top, A+. But now my life consists of dropping my girls off at gymnastics. I send them along their way, and then I kind of just go over to like this little collection, this little pool of other parents who are kind of hanging out while their kids are doing the gymnastics class too, and we kind of just sit and make small talk and get on our phones and kind of hang out until eventually my daughters will run out and say, "Dad, water break, where's my water bottle? Hey Dad, we just did the beams. All right, cool, peace, gotta go back." Like, they have that main character energy going on, and now I'm just officially just the background player, right? I'm just the sidekick who shows up, who picks up and drops off and pays for things and makes sure they have the uniforms. Is that what they call it in gymnastics? The costumes, the leotards. I don't know. We've only been going for a couple of weeks. I don't know all the lingo yet. I'll get there. But it's just so interesting. It's just interesting as I'm in my early-ish 30s, kind of realizing that I'm no longer the main character of my life. I'm no longer the cool guy cruising through the streets saying what's up to the gals. I am now just the dad who has to sit there while the real main characters of the show, my daughters, go off and do their thing. So that's kind of like something I've been processing lately. So just wanted to share that before we get into everything I really wanted to talk to you all about on today's show. So thanks for letting me process that. I really do appreciate that. I appreciate you. I love you all. You guys are the best. So thankful to have you all here on the show today. But before we get into the good stuff on this episode, I've just asked you to do maybe a few things if you'd be so inclined to do so. The first thing that you can do is just make sure you yourself have subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you went to your favorite podcast hosting platform and you've hit the button, you've rang the bells, YouTube, all the things, turned on automatic downloads, so that way you yourself never miss an episode in the future. The second thing that you can do is just share the podcast. Share the podcast with a friend, with the family member, with your neighbor, with your kids' gymnastic coach. That way we can make sure we get the show out to more people. We grow the voices that are shared on the show, the perspectives, the community, all the things, so we could just keep pushing this thing forward. And then last but not least, only do this if you feel so. Only do this if you think it feels right in your heart, in your soul. Only do this maybe to help me and my little ego trip that I'm going on, realizing that I'm not the main character, I'm not cool anymore, I'm just the gymnastics dad. Maybe you can help give me a little self-esteem boost. That would be nice. What you could do is you could just rate the podcast 5 out of 5 stars, highest rating possible on your favorite podcast hosting platform. That way the algorithms out there also know the show's legit and it passes it along to more people. All right, let's get into the stuff I have for today.
Something to be encouraged by.
All right, so I don't even know like how long this episode's gonna be, or it's just gonna be however long it needs to be, because essentially to kind of give some setup, I was just hanging out on social media, just chilling, probably right before, but actually no, I think this was in the morning. I had just woken up, got on my phone, looking through socials, and I came across this post from a single mom. And it kind of was obvious that it was directed towards single parents. And so obviously being the host of a single parents podcast, no, not Single Parents Podcast, the Single Parents Podcast. Thank you very much. Obviously, it caught my eye, so I started reading through it, and then the post kind of continued on into the comment sections of the Facebook posts, and so I read through it, and I basically, long story short, I was like, you know what, this stuff is good. Like, this is some real, raw, honest stuff from a actual, legit single mom. I believe she has 3 kids. I might be wrong about that. And I think she just kind of bears her heart in this post and kind of shares about what the realities are and kind of speaks towards other single parents out there. And so I just asked her permission to share this post on a future episode of the podcast, this episode of the podcast now. And she said yes. And so if I'm going to ask her later, because when I was talking to her, I didn't ask her permission to like say her name and share her ats on the post in this episode specifically. So I will ask her, and if she says yes, then I'll just kind of give her credit for the post in the description of this episode and on our socials, so you can see that there. But if not, then I'll just kind of read the post, because maybe she just wants to share what she said, but maybe she wants to stay anonymous. We'll respect that. But regardless, I'm just going to share what she has to say to fellow single parents out there, in particular to fellow single moms out there, as she's just kind of living in a lot of the aspects of this reality herself. So let's just get into it. I'm just going to read through it, maybe share my thoughts a little bit at the end. But really, when I had read this post for myself, I was just like, I don't know who in particular needs to hear this from a fellow single mom, but I just have a feeling in my gut that there's somebody out there who's going to listen to this, even if it's just one person, even if it's just one single mom out there who listens to this and hears the words from the single mom. That person might need to hear that she's not alone in what she's going through, or that he, as a single dad, is not alone in certain aspects of what this post is going to talk about. And so if that's what this episode accomplishes, if just one person out there can relate to this post, then I'm going to consider this episode a win. Usually my episode's a little bit longer and we have a few different topics, but I just want this episode to specifically be for the people out there who need to hear the words from the single mom. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's just start reading through it. All right. So here's what she said. To single parents. If you've ever had to wake up with your kids on the weekend after working all week and having a million things to do, and your kids have just been on one since they opened their eyes, I'm sorry. I feel you. I'm already exhausted, and it's 8 a.m. Also, if you're trying to co-parent with someone who just doesn't want to help when you need it, or refuses to take their kids because of plans they already made, I'm sorry that you're the default parent and you have to give up everything to take care of your little people, even though you're stressed out and overstimulated and just need a break. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's so hard for them to cancel their plans and prioritize the kids like you always have to do. And I'm sorry if anyone's ever told you, well, you shouldn't have had kids with them, because we all know that when we fell in love with the person or started seeing that person, we didn't know that they would be a shitty parent, because how else do you get to know someone on that level before it actually happens? And I'm sorry that things didn't turn out like you expected them to or wanted them to. I'm sorry if you saw a future and a family with that person, and your dreams of being happy with them forever were shattered because they decided to really show you their true colors so far into the relationship, or when shit just started to get hard. I'm sorry if once you got pregnant or found out you were having a baby, everything changed. I'm sorry if you were treated like shit throughout your pregnancy, and when you should have been treated like a queen and needed to be taken care of the most at that time of your life. I'm sorry if you had kids with someone who just isn't capable of being a parent. I'm sorry if they left you to do it all by yourself when everyone knows it takes a village. And I'm sorry if you don't have that village. And I'm sorry if you're so mentally drained that you can't even be a good parent yourself. I'm sorry that you wake up and have kids in your face 24/7 and you don't even have the energy to play with them. I'm sorry that you feel like a shitty parent because you're so drained from being the default parent. I'm sorry that you have to plan all their meals, bathe them, get them dressed, clean their rooms, pick up after them every 2 seconds, take time off work when they're sick because you don't have a choice. I'm sorry if you missed out on life experiences because you have to stay home with them. And I'm sorry that you have to figure out how to get them to and from school, sporting events, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, hair appointments, and all the other things that come with having no help whatsoever. But I'm not sorry that they are going to see that. I'm not sorry that they're going to know as they grow who was really truly there for them, who gave up everything to make sure that they were completely taken care of. They're going to know who made sure they had everything they needed. And I'm not sorry if you are that person or persons that are the ones that they're going to grow up not wanting anything to do with them because you were not there for them. You didn't do shit for them. And I'm not sorry you didn't give up everything for them. You lived your life as if you had never had them, and you picked and you chose when you were going to take care of them. And to the parents who are the default parent with little to no help, it's okay. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to want to rip your hair out. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay. You're not alone. I'm not alone. Being a parent is hard in general. You're doing the best you can with the cards you were dealt, and life will not always let you win. But at the end of the day, when you crawl into bed and snuggle with your babies, just know there is no place they would rather be. No one will ever love you more than those children. You're their safety blanket, their comfort, their first love. And no one can take your place. No one can take that away from you. Everything will be okay. Breathe and kiss your babies. Oh man. So even just reading that aloud like that, some powerful stuff, some real stuff. Because once again, that's not coming from a mommy blogger. That's not coming from an actress. That's not coming for somebody I found on the street. Like, hey, you seem like a good writer. Can you put this together for my show? No, that was just a real, honest, single mom of a few kids, just bearing her heart, bearing her soul, speaking about the reality of a lot of people's stories. And I know a lot of people's stories out there who are single parents. Maybe there's some aspects of things she talked about and brought up that might not apply to everybody's circumstances, but I can guarantee you, and maybe you're one of these people right now who are saying yes and amen, that there are people out there who can 100% relate to a lot, if not all, of the things that she mentioned in that post. And I just want to echo 1,000% everything that she said, especially the fact that it's not easy. There's going to be hard days. Sometimes you just don't have help, and we might have friends and family who are there when we need them, but sometimes it's just hard, right? Sometimes it's just exhausting. And I know on the show, we love celebrating single parents. We hype up single parents. We talk about how hot we are. We're not apologizing for that. We're going to keep doing that. That's the whole basis and foundation of the show, especially this year. However, it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? We don't have to say like, hey, single parents are hot. We're awesome. We celebrate single parents, while also pretending like being a single parent isn't always easy, while pretending like being a single parent is always cupcakes and rainbows and sunshine. Like, no, like we can be hot. We're awesome as single parents. Yes and amen. But it can also be tough. And I think part of owning how amazing we are is also owning the fact that we have to work through some tough days and some tough times. And we need reminders like this, like the post I just read, sometimes to give us the encouragement to live into the fact that we are pretty dang legit. And I just really loved and really hit me the fact that she's talking about how our kids are going to know, right? I think this is something big to remember and something that's easy to forget in the day-to-day realities of just having our kids all the time sometimes, especially if you are a single parent who has your kids 24/7, 365. You don't have like maybe a shared custody thing going on. It's easy to forget that our kids, even especially when they're young, they're not stupid, right? They're gonna grow, they're gonna internalize things, they're gonna see certain perspectives, and maybe they won't have all the details of everything, but they're gonna know, as this post from this mom said, who was there, who wasn't there, who tried their best, who they snuggled with at the end of the night, who showed them love, who provided a safe environment, who supported them, who provided for them. They're going to know these things, and they're going to remember the truth of a lot of these things when they grow up, whether we like it or not. And so our goal isn't to just try to be perfect and to make sure that they think that we're superheroes or anything. Like, as this post said, it's good that they're going to see the great days that we have for them, but that they're also going to see the hard days, that the days that we just went to bed completely and utterly exhausted and overwhelmed and needed a break, or the days where we just had to go to them and apologize because we had to say, hey, you know what, I'm sorry that I snapped at you yesterday. I'm sorry that I responded like this yesterday. I'm sorry that I was so focused on this that I didn't pay attention to what you said. Please forgive me. They're going to see that. I think that's good, and I think that's healthy for them to see us work through stuff and know what it looks like for a person to work through different aspects of their situation. And I think they're going to grow, and that's going to teach them a lot about, I think, themselves and about life and about what it looks like to endure and how to love and just so many different things. And so I guess those are just kind of my thoughts, my takeaway for me as a single dad. I know some of this stuff has some specific language towards single moms in particular, but I think there's stuff from this post that we could take away from single parents in general. There's stuff from this post that we can take away as parents in general, whether we're single parents or not, because I'm sure there's things about the stuff that this mom shared that parents in general, whether they have a spouse at home or not, can identify with. Like, parenting in general can just be tough and exhausting and confusing and stressful and scary and all the things. And so that's why I wanted to share the post. Again, I know this episode's not going to be very long. I know it's not going to have different topics like we normally have. I don't have my co-host. We'll get back to that. So we'll get to regularly scheduled stuff next week. We'll get into all of that. But for this week, I just really know that there's somebody out there who needed to hear those words. And maybe that's you. And maybe if you feel comfortable, you can let me know that you were one of the people who needed to hear from this single mom. And maybe you are hopefully feeling some encouragement after hearing all that. Maybe you have a response to hearing some of that stuff that she said. If so, I would love to hear it. You can use our socials, send DMs, do all the things, but our email is just thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com. Let me know. And if you have anything that maybe you as a single parent or a parent out there would love to share and to encourage others with, or what have you, maybe you just want to share your story, maybe you do want to share your reality, your perspective, please just let me know, because as much as the show is me talking about me taking my kids to gymnastics and, my voice and a whole bunch of stuff coming up, I really do want the show to be a community, to be different voices lifting each other up. Because I know even myself, like, I'm still figuring a lot of stuff out. I have not even close to having all the answers. And so I get encouraged and I learn a lot from a lot of you all. I got a lot of encouragement reading this post from this single mom. And so just share your voice, share your perspective. But more importantly, I just hope that if you are the person who I just had a feeling needed to hear these words today, please just go forward with your head held high, knowing that as long as you're doing the best you can, everything's going to turn out all right. All right, everybody. Well, with that, that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Single Parents Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in yet again. Until next time, my name's Anthony, and you all out there, just stay beautiful. Bye.